Hey guys, welcome into the Puggle Reborn channel. We are back with another top 5 named weapons of the week. And this is the 6th episode, which means that next week is going to be the big battle royale. Over the last 6 weeks, I have had a first place contestant for each one. And each one of those bastards are going to come together and kill each other. Okay, maybe not that bad, but they are going to be pitted against each other for the top named weapon of the month, and then will be entered into the year competition. Please hit the like, subscribe, and if you want to know how to submit a named weapon, you can do that by looking in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into this week's top 5. Number 5 is the Wellcrafted Isham Azir. Yes, I'll tell you what, if I ever needed to cut up a pig and roast that sucker so I could get the best fine pork chops you ever did see in your life, I would go and call the guy who made this son of a gun. This is an exquisite and exotic weapon as shown in the description, of course, and we're going to get into why it made the list at number 5. Before I do, I want to give a shout out to Different Pie 9854. Oh yeah, 8675, shut the hell up. Alright, let's do this. Okay? What makes the well-crafted Shamshir just a simply well-crafted Shamshir? Well, let's start with the damage. Starting out on a normal Shamshir, you're talking about 45 to 50 damage. This thing hits a jump above 50 to 56 as the base. That's far and away from a normal Shamshir. To 63, which means that interval of gap is so tiny, okay? There's only a 6 damage difference. Every time you hit something, you're going to have very, very consistent damage. Now, where is the damage exactly getting put into against your opponent? Well, look no further than ignoring armor. Usually you'd be at 20%. This thing is at 33. That means that it's a 13% jump off the base. So, in conclusion, really getting into what makes this thing as dangerous as it could ever possibly be is the fact that you're talking about getting into the health, causing injuries. This Shamshir is about injuries. You add crippling strikes to this, you add executioner to this, you add a killing frenzy to this, you add a duelist to this thing, and you are going to do devastating things. Now, if you're like me and you like making special builds, you can do a hammer slash Shamshir with those abilities. The hammer takes down the health or takes down the armor, then to get the final blow to kill it, you pull the sucker out and you devastate your opponent. As long as you're in the health, you're going to do very dangerous things. My favorite thing about this would probably be going against orcs. The well-crafted Shamshir is meant to cut up the competition and slice the nipples off them bastards. Okay, that's kind of weird. Let's get into the next one. Number 4 is the Trader's Bane Dragon Tongue. Man, if only I had some serious dragon special effects. Let me tell you what I would do right now. I would make the dragon swoop in, take a massive dump, and this beautiful... Wait, hold on, this is a dragon's tongue. Okay, maybe I just have it stick its tongue out. Nonetheless, this thing is literally what I'd expect from the aftermath, the afterbirth of flames that have engulfed a whole village where people are screaming, "Please don't kill me, I'm just a peasant." I don't know why dragons always go after peasants, but you know what? They gotta get ready for the real form, which is the nobleman. And that's what this thing is making you do. It's making a person feel ready to not take on something just so minusculely small into something great, like the army of the north or the douchebags in the sands, pocket sand right in your face. Okay, that's a hell of an intro for this weapon, but nonetheless, I want to give a shout out to Cosmic Nothing's Art. Thank you for this submission. This is a beautiful weapon. I know you're going to have fun out in the desert or in the snow popping people off. So let's get into what makes this thing an amazing number 4. So, looking at the ignoring armor first, because the two things that ended up changing was the ignoring armor and the effectiveness against the armor. Ignoring armor, you're effectively going from 25 up to 37. If you don't already know, math, quick math, here we are. 13 extra percentage of ignoring armor, the potential of ignoring armor to get into the health of the opponent. If that's not enough for you, let's get into the effectiveness against the armor. At 100% effectiveness just on the base, we are talking a jump of 16. Now in the grand scheme of things, how does that really add up? Well, when you're talking about 35 damage up to 75 damage, that variation really does matter. But what happens when you end up changing the criteria of just percentages of 35 to 75, it is a actual considerable boost. 75 at the top end of hitting something. At 37, you're getting yourself about 30 damage into the health. That to me, or 30 to about 40, right in there. Without doing the full math in there, it is right in that area. That's a considerable jump. And if you're building yourself with that fearsome perk, won't go too far into that, but still, it adds that extra boost. Now, if we're talking about what the handgun in some respect has a little bit of a lull, is the effectiveness against armor. Why I say that is because you never know what you're going to get when you fire this thing off. It truly is like that sweet box of chocolates. Because if you only hit a 35 as your high damage at 100%, that's not crazy. But with that 16, you're effectively going up to like 36, 37. Again, it's not a considerable boost, but at 75, it's definitely worth noting. Now, these are kind of the things that makes this not quite over the top. Now, if I saw this weapon with higher damage in particular, that ultimately boosts everything in terms of percentages. That's why this is at number 4 and not quite higher. Nonetheless, it is still the afterbirth of the flames that burn the peasants. So, congratulations on this one. It was a blast, and I'm sure it is in the right hands. Number 3. Number 3 is the Ancient Honor Guard's Bloodthirster. This thing is... That's what I think about it, man. When it gets into the health of anything, it just siphons it out. The blood goes everywhere. This thing is literally a blood spreader, a blood creator. It is a beautiful work of art on top of it. Doesn't matter how long it's been sitting in the crypt, those dusty farts that have been settling on it for ages is now coming to life with a new glow, and it ain't green, it's a red. The best color that you can find in Battle Brothers, of course. Unless you're facing a Lindworm, then I guess green does work. Nonetheless, guys, this thing is fantastic. I want to give a shout out, and I'm gonna slaughter the absolute hell out of this. But it is, I believe it's supposed to be Captain Vea, but I don't know, I have no idea pronunciation. V-E-H-J-E, you know what I'm saying. Congratulations still, you sir have in fact one of my favorite looking weapons out of a two-hander that's a cleaver. The thing is, this thing at number 3 is beyond deserving of this. The damage jump alone makes it such a unique find. 73 to 97. If you look at a base crypt cleaver, we're talking 60 to 80. This thing is far and away exceeding that with 73 because of that 13 damage jump to the top end of 93.7. Now, if you think about a rusty two-handed axe or a two-handed long axe, you're talking about 70 to 95 damage. So it's very, I always kind of look at it as it's very comparable to that up close, except 2 shots and the bleed ability. You give a bleed mastery, without getting into the next stats, if you give it a bleed mastery, that 10, if you get 2 strikes on it, that's 20 damage per turn for 2 turns. What the literal hell? That is that's nasty. Okay, and on top of that, let's get into the next big jump. This thing has 39% chance, or 39% chance to ignore armor. Hello? That's a cleaver's wet dream, literally and figuratively. It is the true dream of any type of cleaver getting into the health. This thing's gonna do all that and more, especially because of how much damage beyond that you're gonna actually do every time you hit somebody. Even if it doesn't hit the high end of 39, hitting the high end of a 39 is still incredibly considerable. Even if you hit the, like if you get lucky at a 97 roll, between 73 and 97. You hit the 97, and for some reason you get that, or you hit the top end of 39, ignoring armor. Blah, okay? Blood everywhere. And then when their turn is done, that's an extra 10 damage. It goes hand in hand. And that's not even talking about just a Crypt Cleaver in general having the armor damage of 120% with the damage being as high as it is. Now, the thing I didn't explain yet, and I'm just getting ahead of myself, is the 25% ignoring armor is the base. And we're going up to 30 freaking 9. That's nasty. That's I think it's 14. Yes, 14% extra ignoring armor on top of the damage boost. I just don't even know what to say. The stinking bastard who died in the crypt after a bunch of people farted on his weapon for whatever reason. You lonely sack of bones. I'm sure. No wonder Geists are out there screaming their heads off at people. I'd be pissed as hell too. Anyways, without any more frustration, let's get into the next one. But before we get into number 2, I gotta ask for that like and a subscribe. If you do enjoy this content, please help it grow. It is kind of a piece of crap, but you know, at the same time, I don't want to be mixed up with the likes of Bono. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that is a South Park reference. Let's get into the next one, number 2. Number 2 is the Harvester of the Moon. The Moon's Harvester. I'm going to harvest the moon. Once again, one is siphoning blood. This one is siphoning the moon. I hear that if you take a handful of dust from the moon, you could freaking power a city for a week. This is true fact. This is really what I've heard before, but it's only what I've heard. Man, the internet really messes you up. The point still being, this thing is conjuring the power of the moon to cause absolute death and destruction upon the earth. The moon causes tsunamis. This thing causes a heart to beat a little bit harder until it explodes. That's what it did when I ended up looking at it for the first time, and I am so thank you, Lee Swagster, coming back with vengeance. Not only did he get a number 1 before, but he almost hit that number 1. In fact, this one was almost, I mean, it was so close to number 1, I about had to do a corkscrew in my freaking chair and die. Okay, that's how close it was. But let me tell you, this thing is, there's nothing to take away from this that's not incredible, except for one little incidency detail. Oh man, look at that little twist, huh? The moon's got a moon. Either way, let's get into this one. So, let's start with the damage. Again, the criteria that really gives a huge boost to weapons is the overall damage first, because it truly boosts all the percentages as a whole. When you boost the damage alone, you get a boost throughout the ignoring armor, throughout the effectiveness against armor. So when you do submit a weapon, this is a great criteria to go by because it does boost everything else. However, this thing does some really dirty things. Starting out, 76 to 101 damage. That's nuts. And then you look at the actual sword lance damage at 60 to 80. Come on. I mean, literally, come on. What the heck? That's insane. You're almost hitting your top end at 80, so 76, and then you're going up to 101. My comparable weapon that's close to this would be the normal Great Axe. Why? Because when you look at the Great Axe, you're talking about the damage being 80 to 100, just pure. And this thing is going from 2 tiles back, swinging and swiping and doing an AoE of a greatsword on top of that. So, or you could even use that as a greatsword. I guess greatsword fits the same category. Nonetheless, that damage is big. Now, where does this thing find its excelling point? Well, the excelling point is the ignoring armor. See, now the original ignoring armor is 30%. This thing goes all the way up 15% to 45 ignoring armor. Holy freaking, oh my gosh, the moon of harvesting. The harvesting the moon has never been so true. That's insane. Literally at 100 damage, that's 45 ignoring armor. When you're doing an AoE, we all know, let's just get to the truth about this weapon. Everybody's waiting for this to become a number 1, and this thing probably gets as close as it gets. I can't believe the submission that came in that took number 1, but let me be honest about this. This is no less deserving of it. It is truly an amazing weapon, and I would love to put this on any brother on the backline, causing ultimate devastation, ripping people to shreds. Now, let me explain And this is no knock. I hate doing this with number 2s because a lot of people will say, well, why not number 1? The only reason this thing isn't number 1, and it is a really hard fought battle because I know the devastation this thing can do, but I also know the fatigue this thing can go through. When I say fatigue, we're talking about durability. The durability is only 48. What does that mean? Well, when you're doing battle to battle to battle, and you're using this thing in a constant AoE motion and hitting armor, you are eventually going to beat this weapon down. I've done it already in the Blazing Deserts DLC with a weapon just like this and almost broke it. It's not, and not to say in any other fight it wouldn't be worthy, because it is, but when you're going fight to fight to fight and not giving it a chance to heal up, it's such a small critique because within one day you can fix this sword or this freaking sword lance. But nonetheless, that is my thing. That is why it's where it's at. Please be understanding about that. Let me know what you guys think about this, and let's get into the nasty next one. Number 1. Number 1 is Firebringer's Shieldbreaker. You know what? That's not even fair. This thing is so freaking devastating. When I first looked at it, I had to go to the ER, not because of heart problems, which kind of did, but nonetheless, I had to get myself a tetanus shot. This thing gave me freaking chest pains like you wouldn't freaking believe. I didn't even have to get close to this thing. Handling this thing is a weekly tetanus shot, no doubts about it. Of course, you don't want a flake of this in your flesh, otherwise you'll become a barbarian. There is only one person that can really wield this thing and truly be the king of the north, and the king of the north is the barbarian king. Anything else is just, well, you weren't born in the freaking snow, okay? This thing was born in the snow, bred by the Jirok, and made love to by the Mad Barbarian. The Mad Barbarian can't even sniff this thing without his freaking drawers plopping to the ground. I don't know where I'm going. The point is it's insane. I love this weapon. I would kill to have this weapon, and I want to give a shout out to all. I think it's All Is Taken. Okay, I could totally say it, so I'm gonna say All Is Taken. Congratulations on this weapon. None of your bros deserve it, but you know what? Congrats. I'm joking, of course. If you get your hands on this thing, anybody out there, you are going to do some absolutely nasty things. However, I do want to preface that there are other weapons that you can really tie this thing in with. One of the big ones is the basic Great Axe, and I wasn't going to hide it and show that, like, see, this thing isn't as prevalent, okay? When I look at this weapon, you look at the heavy rusty axe at 75 to 90, and this thing goes up to 86 to 104. The first thing I noticed, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys about it, I noticed the actual damage from a normal Great Axe, 80 to 100. Now with a 6 boost above the Great Axe and a 4 boost above the top end of a Great Axe, this thing is still insanely dangerous because of the 63% that ignores armor. Guys, one strike from this thing can give you 64% or 64 immediate hit points against the target that you're hitting, not including the damage that you do just in general. And we all know the axes have a high-end potential of destroying armor depending on how much damage or what that range is. 150% effectiveness against armor can absolutely rip people to shreds. This thing is going to cause morale checks that we've never, that of the likes of many little things we've ever seen before. I really am beyond shocked by this thing. I don't know why it's called a Shieldbreaker. I get the 30% or 36 damage to a shield, but who gives a dang? That's the same thing as anything else. This thing is a tetanus shot waiting to happen. You get hit by this thing and you can call your mother and arrange the funeral early and say your goodbye. Actually, you won't be able to because you'd be dead. This thing is literally sick, and I want to congratulate All Is Taken for this, because truthfully, if I came across this in the desert, I wouldn't come across it in the desert. If I came across this in the snow against a barbarian, I would release every hound I have. I would throw every fire pot I could to get this weapon. It is literally beyond. It is totally worthy of the #1 slot. The damage is just, it's hard to comprehend. It really is. I'm gushing beyond the point. I don't even know what else to say about it, guys. If you need a tetanus shot, go to your local hospital, of course. Get yourself checked out. This is a Puggo seal of approval, of course. Thank you guys for coming out. Please hit the like, subscribe, and don't forget, next week is going to be the top 6, and it's going to be the One Freaking Month award, and if you end up making that, you are entered into the year contest. Of course, this thing will be on the ballot. I will do a video before the end of next week, or before the end of this week coming up, to get your guys' opinion on what number 1 is the best. That way I can make sure that I'm not, for lack of a better word, wrecking somebody's ballot. So without further ado, I will see you in the next one. Bye!